Hello and welcome to Thursday Lines. We are back for season 2023. Thursday Lines proudly brought to you by Little Birdie TV, topsport.com.au, Punting Form, and welcome to Comics Lounge as a sponsor for 2023. It's good to be back, and with me the old 1-2 punch, MG and Toprope, as we say, welcome to you two. And Toprope, I think old MG's had a very, very productive off-season. He's been to the opening of absolutely everything. I'm glad he can actually fit us into his schedule. So welcome, MG.
That's a stitch up. That was not on the run sheet. He's going off script early. But I've had didn't have to participate in the NFL podcast this season, so I left that to Toprope and the boys. So I've had a good break and ready to go for the footy seasons.
And Toprope, welcome back to you. It's always good to have you back with us.
It's great to be here, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit surprised to see you. I thought the transition of power from Gil to you would have gone a little bit more smoother, but I see you've used the time to grow a bit of a depression beard, but good to have you back. Some of us will benefit, even if you're not running the AFL just yet.
Well, I think it's about round 5's the handover, so after that I might be scarce, so that's okay. MG, big off-season for the AFL. Obviously the grand final, Geelong absolutely thumped Sydney. It'll be interesting to see how the Swans come back from that. AFLW grand final, Melbourne defeated Brisbane, and that was a fantastic game up there in Brisbane. Plenty of new coaches, new captains. The new player transfer markets, there's plenty of players that have changed teams, some off-field action, some new coaches, new captains, and it's all happening. What's been the highlight for you?
Yeah, not as much going on at Toprope's NRL. It's been pretty quiet in the off-season. You were reporting to me this morning that it's been just a spinnaker up down at your beach house there. Not too many dramas haven't been called in the office for the off season, but most of the actions actually happened around the lot of coach changes and also the renaming of a lot of captains, the naming of a lot of new captains. So more towards, I guess, the bottom end teams looking for new leadership in both areas. So there'll be plenty of new faces, especially in the coaches box.
Yeah, so Alistair Clarkson's gone to the Kangaroos, Ross Lyon back at the Saints, Adam Kingsley to GWS, Brad Scott at the Bombers, plenty of new captains around as well. Be interesting to see if Clarko actually gets to the line. I'm sure he'll shoot his mouth off at some stage and maybe not get there. So that's a little bit of a watch this space.
He hasn't been suspended yet?
Not yet. He will. Mark my words. He'll be suspended at some stage.
And Hawthorn is still in the competition after their treatment of him?
Well, I think the author sort of retracted a couple of the comments, but anyway, that's still bubbling away. So we'll let that be for another day. And plenty of new captains as well. MG Dangerfield for the Premiers, they just get stronger and stronger. Darcy Moore, which would be good for the Pies, shared down at the Kangaroos between Jai Simpkin and Luke McDonald. Jordan Dawson for Adelaide in just his second year. Zach Merritt for the Bombers, Sicily for the Hawks. Alex Pearce for Fremantle, co-captains at the Lions in Neil and Andrews, and Toby Green, the solo captain under Adam Kingsley. So plenty of change there.
Yeah, half the teams have got new leadership, new captains. So the coaches, I tell you what, there's not too many coaches stepping into good seasons. I don't think either. Those teams that you mentioned there are in for some rough rides as well for mine. So the new captains times are changing. So. Plenty of. I think probably I still can't come to co-captains in sides. I don't understand that. Just pick one leader and go with it. I'm definitely against that. I'm surprised Brisbane especially went for dual captains. I think maybe Harris Andrews should have got it outright, but I understand why they've gone Neil. But North Melbourne have gone the same path. Interesting to see how it works out.
And the NRL. Always some dramas in the NRL. The player dispute has finally been resolved, so we can actually play some footy. There's some new teams, the Dolphins. What are the expectations around the Dolphins for year one there, Toprope?
It's great we've managed to get to the NRL. You would have thought after such a quiet off-season, such a boring sport of the AFL, we might have led with the NRL being the day of the kickoff. But anyway, here we are. The Dolphins. Look, Wayne's coaching. They haven't signed many good players. They're not going to be very good, but they will not be the worst team in the comp. Always exciting to bring a new team in the comp, but I'll give the AFL this. When they bring a new team in, we actually try and support them. The NRL has just let the Dolphins give them a 13-month legion and just throw them to the wolves. So, haven't been done any favours.
Good leadership from PBL.
Oh, well, Well, PVL is not a big fan of your humble rugby league correspondent at the moment. It's just some comments, some commentary on the players' dispute there, as you mentioned earlier, OB. So maybe not as maybe won't be as sycophantic as you.
And just as creating headlines yourself there, a beautiful column that you wrote. I spread over 5 days. The top 475 NRL players, which sort of intrigued a few. Number 1, James Tedeschi. I think that sort of speaks for itself. Number 475, Jaden Nikorima. What's the rationale behind that?
Well, Jaden. So obviously, there's a struck match between players 350 and 475 because everybody played a game the year before. So it kind of come down to some personal things, and I do recall having a big bet on the game, thinking Jaden Nikorima would be confident in the one game he played, and he was not. He single-handedly cost the Storm and probably cost me quite a bit of cash. So a little bit of personal vengeance in there just to kind of help separate the list.
Oh, let's hope the Melbourne Storm boys don't see you at a pub on a Friday night as years have gone by. Once again, some dramas off field for the NRL. The St George players just having a bit of a barney before breakfast, and a few of the players' mothers just keeping each other company on the inside. So it was always something for the NRL.
I'll tell you what, if the players having a party after the Charity Shield is probably about the least offensive thing that happened to the Dragons this year. They've got they started off the pre-season with probably their brightest young star, Talatau Amone, getting arrested and charged after chasing a man with his father across a roof with a hammer, and the man fell off the roof and he's subsequently been charged with assault. So he's in the no-fault stand down there. But then Cody Ramsey didn't do anything wrong, but he missed a year. He's got a pretty serious illness. They had 3 players show up to their end-of-season awards night last year, so
Yes.
Culture's flying at the Dragons. So Anthony Griffin, not long for NRL coaching, I wouldn't have thought.
And plenty of injuries leading into round 1, which we'll cover shortly. But it's been a big few months since October. MG Argentina's won the Men's Soccer World Cup, a great betting market, a great betting tournament, I should say. Yep. The Australian Open tennis, Djokovic made it 10, and Sabalenka won her first Grand Slam, which you were all over.
Yeah, Djokovic was a good result. I think they kind of fell for I don't know. I'm not saying Djokovic's camp was betting at all. They probably a few of the trainers might have been in and around it, but. Yeah, he got, I think he started just north of even money, and then when he apparently pulled his hamstring, he got out as big as 2-1 on Betfair. So the people who laid that have learnt their lessons. So, yeah, he was ridiculous odds from the start, I thought, in a very, very shallow field, and got the job done. So, yeah, he's only won 10 of the 11, the one he missed. He wasn't allowed into the country. So
keep him out, I say. Keep him out.
Terrible record.
And the Australian women's cricket team have won their 2020 World Cup. They've won 6 out of 8, just going from strength to strength. The Kansas City Chiefs won a classic over the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. And then Rory McIlroy won golf's FedEx for 2022. So a bit happening there. And Toprope, the golf always keeps us interested.
Yeah, Charles Howard III won the first Live event of the year for those inclined to promote Live. Golf's been off to a fly this year. The elevated events for the PGA Tour have attracting major like fields. We've got 44 of the top 50 playing the Arnold Palmer this weekend. Obviously, the Live chat's been going. We had a good chat about the Netflix doco, Full Swing. Joel Darman seems like a very good bloke. Brooks Koepka and his wife seem like absolute nut jobs. Very, very intriguing. So golf's divided at the moment, but I'd say in a pretty good spot. It's thoroughly enjoyable tournaments kind of by this stage of the year. We haven't even got to the players or the matches yet. So, some really good golf happening.
And we'll definitely be mentioning the Masters closer to the tournament as a little birdie trip heads over there as well. But right now it's time for Thursday Lines, brought to you by topsport.com.au, family owned and operated for 35 years. Bet with a bookie you can trust. Bet with topsport.com.au. MG will whip through a few of the futures markets first for the AFL before getting into NRL round 1. As we look at the graphic there on the screen, it's very dominant around those top 4 sides. Anything that can jump out at you at all?
We were speaking a bit early before the show started. I just think, the top end's chock full of talent, even though they look like some big prices there. Early value, I think, is probably around the third line there, Brisbane, 750, and Richmond.
Are we just rinsing and repeating, are we? Is this Toprope on the Storm?
I feel a bit like Toprope, rolling out Melbourne Storm every year. But, I just like Brisbane's forward half at the moment. Their problem is going to be their defence. They've lost a key defender already, so they wouldn't want to have any more injuries back down there. But, their draw sets up well. They've been there the last couple of years. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that Brisbane will get you to a top 4 area come to the end of the year. I'm pretty keen on Richmond. They've recruited well in the off-season, and I think they'll bounce back. From all reports, everyone's up and going at this stage. No pot definitely on Geelong. They're not going anywhere. If anything, I think they've got it a little bit better. And with their home ground advantage, got a very good draw. Actually, when you look at their draw for a premiership side who was so dominant, remember their winning streak's unbelievable. And as you mentioned earlier, they won the prelim into the grand final by a huge margin. So they're going nowhere, and Melbourne will be there as well. The bottom half of the top 4 is more interesting, and I think there's only, as you can see there in the betting, with the gap from the Bulldogs to St Kilda, the top 10 only, and then there's a big drop-off. And I think this year you will see a real great divide between the bottom and the top, and there'll be some annihilations, I think, as the year goes on. As
we look at the final 8 prices, if we can get those up, anyone can jump in from last year. Anyone you like? I know you're a bit of a fancy of Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I think Port Adelaide. Well, Carlton. I think Carlton will jump in, even though they had such a disaster finish. They probably, all things being equal, should have made it. But yeah, statistically wise, I think they'll jump in, and I think Port Adelaide and I think Bulldogs will just miss out. I think they'll be the ones to make way at this stage.
Okay, and then the Brownlow Medal. Obviously, that's a great betting market. Obviously, the names Neil, Cripps, Oliver, Bontempelli, Miller, Brayshaw, Petrarca, Steele, and Warner at $23. They're all some familiar names at the top there.
Yeah, not too dissimilar to last year, actually. A lot of the names are pretty much the same. I don't think too much will change leading into round 1. A lot of the top sides are represented there as well with key players. Remember, Cripps won by a vote to Neil last year. If I was picking one of that front page, I would go Neil just for the fact that I like Brisbane. I think he'll be helped a lot by Dunkley going up there in the midfield. I think he'll have a lot more protection. Also, captain this year might just give him that extra bit motivation. So I'll be leaning Neil. As you said there, Warner on the bottom one, $23. I don't think he's a bad bet as well. And I think Rosie from Port. I think Port might be improving into the final 8. So I think there's one. If I was going to choose a bolter, I don't mind Jeremy Cameron. He scored 19 votes last year. And I think he will be very hard to beat for the Coleman this year. And if Geelong are a top 2, top 4 side again, then he might be a chance for the top 5, top 10.
As we look ahead to the Coleman Medal, obviously Jeremy Cameron, the favourite there at $6.75, Tom Lynch at $8, Curnow $9 from his Carlton teammate Mackay at $10, McStay, Collingwood at $15, Hawkins at $15. Will miss the first few weeks of the season. Peter Wright at $18, Taylor Walker $22, Ben King from the Gold Coast Suns at $26. We spoke about it off air, but I'm a big Jack Gunston fan. Have been for a while. I think he'll get enough supply, and he's around the $40 mark.
Yeah, no pot there. Like the top 2, I think Cameron's got tremendous upside. I like T. Lynch from Richmond. Both those sides I think are going well. There's a few pots there. I think there's a few in that middle area. As you said, Hawkins will miss early. I think Mastay is way unders for Collingwood. I can't see him winning the Coleman Medal. Really like Gunston for Brisbane. And just a little smoke, I think Taberner around the 51, maybe even 67s out there for Freo. If he gets enough games under his belt, he's capable of kicking 60+.
Absolutely. And the AFL preseason matches continue this weekend. It's the final round of the preseason games for them. There's a couple of good games, 3 on tonight, this afternoon. Yep. Anyone in particular that takes your fancy across the weekend?
Yeah, it's 3 on each the 3 days. Really good match tonight. The last one is Brisbane-Geelong, so they're potentially the 2 of the top 4 sides for the year. So really competitive game, $1.80 at the moment for Brisbane and Geelong. Very good viewing. I like that one. On the Friday, we've got the pick of them is going to be Sydney and Carlton. So at the moment, Sydney at $1.66, a line of 7.5 there. I think that'll be a good contest to watch. And then on the Saturday, the last game there, 2 potential top 4 sides as well, is Melbourne v Richmond. Melbourne $1.68 minus 5.5. So yeah, they're probably the 3 picks for the weekend if you're watching.
Beautiful. And as we go to Toprope, we'll just have a look at a few futures markets for Toprope. We've got the Premiership odds there. Obviously, the Panthers going for the three-peat. They're at $4. The Roosters at $5. Storm at $8. The Rabbitohs at $9. North Queensland, Cronulla, Parramatta, and Brisbane Broncos all in double figures. Any value there, Toprope?
Yeah, well, you can lay Penrith to your eyes bleed, so betting around them is the way to play. They've been big drifters in the market. They've lost some players over the off season. They've got Yapi Coruscant, Viliami Kikau, Taylor May out for the year, and I think they're going to start the season pretty slow. They had 20 players at the World Cup, so most of their squad didn't resume training until January. So I'll be taking them on. I like two teams this year. Will surprise absolutely nobody that the Melbourne Storm is one of them. Look, the best spot in the comp. The concern with them is Pappenhausen's injury. He's out for a while, but looks like it's going to be Craig Bellamy's last year. Yeah, if they're going to do it, if they're ever going to do it for a coach, this will be the year. So also, I think they've got a vastly improved pack. Losing the Bromwich brothers and Kaufusi is actually a major positive for the Storm. We see Christian Welch back as well, who will captain the side. Roosters have the best roster in the NRL. They've added the Cheese, Brandon Smith. I think he's going to be fantastic for them. They've got some concerns of their own, led by Angus Crichton. We won't delve too deep into that, but let's just say the mental health issues arose after a trip to Amsterdam. So, doesn't take a great mathematician to put that two and two together. So I don't know that we'll see Angus Crichton for the rest of the year. He'll at least be out for 10 weeks. So, and they're going to reassess him then. So, big loss for the Chooks, but I think they've got a good side there. South's probably the only other legitimate chance. They've got a lot of continuity going into the year. Haven't backed them, but wouldn't talk anyone off them at the $10. And there's a big drop after that. The Cowboys get a cushy run. They'll finish top 4, but probably lacking the depth to generally contend for the title, and same probably set for the Sharks.
As we have a look at the final 8 prices, anyone outside the early favourites that you might see jumping in, or anyone outside the top 8 from last year that might creep in? No, I've got exactly
the same 8 as last year, which would be rare. But the one bet you're going to find from me is the Canberra Raiders to make the 8. I think you can get anywhere up to $2.25. Is one of the great bets you'll have all time. No team, since I've been keeping records of the draw for about the last 15 years, has been handed an easier draw than the Canberra Raiders have been given this year. They have 8 games against top 8 teams from last year. As I mentioned earlier, I've got the 8 pretty steady this year, so it'll be the same again. I don't think any other team has less than 11. So very, very cruisy run for the Canberra Raiders. I think they're going to get in based on Schedule 1. Beautiful. And we did discuss the wooden spoon earlier when we introed the Dolphins. You don't think they'll win the wooden spoon? Who's your tip there? Yeah, I think the Dolphins won't be running last. I think they're going to have a pretty steady hand there. I think $1.60 is very, very short. Wayne Bennett is, maybe not the best X's and O's coach, but he's going to get enough out of them. They've signed a pretty veteran side there as well. I'll back 2 teams. I think the arse is falling out of the Dragons as we speak. They've had a shocking off-season. They've got a terrible roster. They can barely field a side that's common in first grade. There's no player you should feel more sorry for in the NRL than Ben Hunt, who's got to go out there and lead that mob around. And the other team, I think, is the New Zealand Warriors. Shocking roster this year. A new coach who I think is not going to go well. Probably their best hire in their last 3 hires, but still a pretty ordinary choice for their coach over there. And they're persisting with Sean Johnson. They've lost their exciting after a long-term hamstring injury. I think if one thing tells you how they're going to go this year, it's their 3-quarter line going this week. They're playing Dale Martinez, Lesniak, Martello Montoya, and Braden Miliami. So good luck with that. Going to be a long year for the Warriors. They sounded like names that were 300 and above in a certain column I read earlier in the year, so it doesn't strike us with any confidence. As we look at the top try scorer for season 2023, Alex Johnson always at the top there. He's at $4.60. The next best is the Fox at O'Carr at $8.50, and Xavier Coates at $13. Brayton To'o at $15 and Tupu at $17. Anyone tickle your fancy there, Top Rope? I've been having a couple of bets from that paper. I don't like taking such short odds, for such a long-term market, because you're always playing with injuries. But Alex Johnson has proven himself to be pretty durable through his career, and he's the first player since the 1930s to score back-to-back seasons of 30 plus tries. So, outstanding. The Rabbitohs attack isn't going back with the ball. They're going to score plenty of points. Word is Latrell is in peak condition and he's going to be here, and that's only going to benefit Alex Johnson. So I'll be backing Alex Johnson. And I'm not high on the Eels this year, but Mike Aceto is just a great try scorer. And at $21, I think he's big value there because they've got fewer weapons to play with this year, and Big Mike is going to be required to do a lot of the try scoring.
As we now look ahead to round one, it kicks off tonight. Parramatta versus the Melbourne Storm. It's the 7:50 game at CommBank Stadium up in Sydney. The head-to-head, 2.05 the Eels, $1.77 the Storm. The line is 2 points even, over and under 40.5. The Melbourne Storm have not lost round one under Craig Bellamy. That could be one of the greatest stats in sporting history.
Yeah, and this might be the last round when he's coaching, so perfect record. Hopefully it's not like the Undertaker at WrestleMania, who carried that unbeaten streak for such a long time and then lost, I think, his last WrestleMania. But no, we're away with Craig Bellamy. I do think that stat is a pretty big guiding factor. To me, that stat tells me that no one works his team harder in the off-season. No one gets his team ready to start well. And a bit like the Waterhouse's training horses in Sydney, Bellamy is very much aware that if you're going to have a big season, you're better off playing from in front and not trying to chase wins at the back end of the year. And on that reason alone, I'm happy to back them. Both teams are missing a lot of players. The Storm have lost Pappenhausen. They've lost those 3 departures to the Dolphins. Justin Orm's hurt. So they're looking pretty thin on their bench. But this is still a team that's going to wheel out, Munster, Hughes and Harry Grant. I think their edges are going to be better. I think we should expect a big season from Eli Katoa, the recruit from the Warriors, to play on the right edge. Very concerned about the Eels. They've lost their hooker, Reid Marnie. Josh Hodgson off an ACL, declining pretty quickly, looked very ordinary in the trials. I'm not sure the attack is going to be all that slick, and it wasn't all that slick last year, to be perfectly honest. They've lost Ryan Madison, suspended. Sean Lane busted his jaw. Some injuries to the outside backs as well. So I think the Storm will win this. So I'm not a huge amount of confidence here, but I think Bellamy will have them ready, and happy to lay the 2 points.
As we look to the first of the 2 Friday night games, it's the Warriors and the Knights at over in New Zealand. The Warriors $1.52, the Knights $2.52, the line -5.5, and the over under 42.5. The Warriors' favourite in what you're tipping as one of the wooden spoon fancies over there, Toprope.
Get your chips in and get them all in on the Knights. It's a silly price in round one. The Warriors should be favoured by more than a try over absolutely nobody, including the Orange Sims and the St Joseph's Campbelltown under sixes. They are a very ordinary team. The Knights have won their last 3 against New Zealand. They've covered 10 the last 15. The Warriors covered 6 of their last 15 as favourite. 1 of their last 3 favoured by more than 4 points. We've got to be with the Knights here. Don't want the Knights. Another little factor here as well. Adam O'Brien is very much on the verge of being fired here. He will be front-loading this season all the way, so he will be all in. I remember last year as well, the Knights had a very ordinary year. They did beat the Roosters in round 1, 20-6. So got a feeling O'Brien will have them geared up for this one. I think the plus and the head-to-head is the one for this one. And
looking ahead in round 1, the third game we'll look at is the Panthers and the Broncos. Very intriguing, this one on paper. This is the 8:05 game on Friday night. The Panthers $1.21, the Broncos $4.40, the line -12.5, over under 40.5. The Broncos have had very good publicity in the off-season, and Penrith sort of waning a little bit. This one looks quite intriguing, Toprope.
Yeah, I don't want the Broncos. This is obviously the Penrith celebration match. They'll be presenting the trophy to the fans. Don't love what Penrith are about. I thought they were very ordinary in the World Club Challenge. I think they're probably a month or 2 behind where they'd want to be in pre-season training. They've lost some key players. I don't think the impact the loss of Api Coruscant has had on the game of Nathan Cleary and Geronimo is really known yet. But you've got, one example of this is, Coruscant got brought into the Origin side last year just because Cleary likes early ball and likes clean ball and wants to be the one making the decision. Yeah, so Damien Cook had to go back to the bench, where Mitch Kennedy very much plays in the Damien Cook mould, not the Appy Coruscant mould. So I think we might take a few pages there. Taylor May out for the year as well. I like the Broncos getting the big start. They've covered 5 or 6 against the Panthers. They've covered 9 of their last 10, getting 8 or more points. And a little stat for you: underdogs of 8 or more in round 1, dating back to 2008, cover at 70%. So if there's an 8+ dog in the game, you want to be on them. So I'll be taking the Broncos to get the big start.
As we look to Manly and the Bulldogs, that's the Saturday afternoon 3:00 game. The Manly-Warringah Sea Eagles $1.57 against the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs at $2.40. The line -4.5, over under 43.5. The Bulldogs forward, or the front row of the Bulldogs, have been decimated by injuries. But Gus Gould says one thing we don't do is panic. But I think the Bulldogs might improve this year. Toprope.
Yeah, the Bulldogs are up for improvement, and also the one thing the Bulldogs might not do is panic. But the second thing they also don't do is hire Anthony Seibold. And Anthony Seibold in his first game in charge at Manly, this is going to be an absolute disaster. You've got all those guys who didn't want to wear the Pride jersey. Most of them are still there. You've got Anthony Seibold, a very, quite nicely, precocious. I'm not renowned for his communication, leading the way into the cesspool/snake pit that is Manly-Warringah Seagulls politics. I cannot wait to see how this year plays out. My tip is it's going to lead in 1 or 2 of the Turbo boys, the Trebojevic boys, exiting Manly. I think it's going to go that badly. So, from a side point of view, I didn't mind the Dogs when lines opened. Also, Thompson hurts a bit in Pangai Jr., but look, the key for the Dogs is getting Reid Marnie and Viliame Kikau. I think they've become huge value, getting 4.5 points. I'm stunned by the line move here. Best bet in the game, though, the over. You want to be on the over. The over in Manly against Brookvale, 16-6, 24-12 when they're favourite, hitting all 6 games when Manly are favourite at bookie by less than a converted try. I think the over is a great play here, and I'll be backing the Bulldogs.
And we'll whip through the 5th game, or for further analysis, is the Sharks and the Rabbitohs. The Sharks $2.50, the Rabbitohs $1.53, the line 4.5, over under 42.5 there, Toprope.
Yeah, I did like South when lines open here, but Mika Hines out, lines at 4.5. Early season, big home underdogs, you've got to be with the Sharks. So I'll be on the Sharks more. I think there's going to be plenty of points in this one as well. Last 5 between these two have top 40 plus. South's a big overs team as a favourite away from Aquila Stadium, 33-30. So I'll be betting the over. I'll be having a little bit on the Sharks plus.
As we whip through the other 3 games very quickly, the Cowboys $1.35 against the Raiders $3.20. The line -8.5, over under 43.5. Anything there for you, Toprope?
Big underdogs, Canberra plus 8.5. Have to be on that.
As we look towards the next game, the first one for the Dolphins, they're at $6 against the Sydney Roosters, $1.13. The line 17.5, over under 45.5. The Dolphins, any hope?
Probably not a hope of winning, but great hope of keeping it close. In fact, my bet of the week, the plus 17.5. I think they are obviously big home underdogs, big underdogs in round 1. Notable too that the Roosters have covered just 3 of 9 round 1 games under Trent Robinson. Doesn't wind them up for round 1. Lost to Newcastle last year. Got to be with the Dolphins.
As we look to the final game, is the West Tigers $1.70 against the Gold Coast Titans, $2.15. The line -2.5, over under 46.5. That's the 6:15 game on Sunday.
Hardest game of the week, leaning towards probably the Titans these days. The only bet I will be recommending in the game, though, debutant winger Alafiana Khan-Pereira. Anytime try score, you can get about $2.25 out there. He's the fastest player in the NRL. He's scored 4 tries in his last pre-season game. He's going to be an absolute superstar. He's coming up against one of the biggest plonker backlines you'll ever see in your life in the West Tigers. So if they can get him any half-decent ball in some space, he's going to run laps around. He's going to be like that fast kid in under sixes touch footy who's just got to score by running around the entire team. So can't for anytime try 225.
That could be our favourite word of the year, plonker. there'll be a few of them. But just a reminder that punters can locate the GGOA for $33 a week in the littlebirdie.live shop for all your NRL betting action. The options in the shop, there's options in the shop, I should say, the Futures Punters Guide for $66 or the season package for $775. I know Toprope's put a lot of time and energy into those in the off-season, so they're a great read and a great source for punting for season 2023. The AFL Stings will be available next week, MG. So Toprope, great to be back. Great to hear your dulcet tones again. Great to see you up there in orange and looking beautiful and splendid as always. Good luck for season 2023. It's great to have you back, and we're looking forward to a great year.
Yeah, absolute pleasure you're back. It's great to speak to you, OB, and great to speak to you, MJ, and very exciting. And this is certainly the best time of the season when we can get through a podcast with maybe 90% NRL and only 10% AFL.
That might do us for the rest of the season, I think, Toprope. But MG, thank you. Looking forward to a bit more in-depth next week with the AFL betting action as well. But that's a wrap for this week's Thursday Lines. Thanks to MG and thanks to Toprope. A reminder, you can follow us on YouTube. You can find us in the Apple Store, on Spotify, on SoundCloud, wherever you listen to all your good podcasts. You can follow at Little Birdie TV on Twitter and on Instagram. Remember, all your footy betting action can be found at topsport.com.au. We will see you next week. Punt well, punt responsibly, and have a great weekend, punters.